position.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I'm Barry Kostrinsky. These are artist talks that we're doing every Tuesday, and we're doing them with a live model, Mo Kelly. Our format, usually we do have a presenter, but for most of April, we do not. So we will have a live model and we'll sort of talk freely and draw at the same time. Everything is captured. This is being recorded and ends up on my YouTube, which you can find through my website. I will say later, Thomas will present. Thomas Demick will discuss his recent art. And Nancy, we just started talking, so I'll just hand it off to Nancy. She was discussing something called Creative Mornings, which I haven't heard of, which sounds quite interesting. I think it'd be nice for us to capture. So thanks for coming. And Nancy, thanks for sharing about this.
Oh, sure. Thanks, Barry. Thanks for inviting me to share this. I just did a talk at Creative Mornings, and I showed my short film, Becoming Gray, that I showed you all a trailer to. And Creative Mornings, I put the link in the chat. There might be one near you. They're morning creative talks, and it's a global group that there's a theme every month, and it's all volunteers, and they try to bring in a speaker that aligns with that creative topic somehow loosely, and then everywhere around the world there's a gathering happening. So they're free. It's just really an amazing way to meet more people in your community and share your work, or just learn about what's going on.
I've clicked on the link. It's quite impressive,
Isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going through the website, and I think I saw something like 60 countries or something.
Yes. And so then they're all recorded. So then my talk will eventually be live, along with everyone else who agrees to have their talk recorded. So there's people there filming it, and there was a great tech team, so it was easy to present the work. And I had been going to them before COVID. And, on occasion, if something caught my eye, if a friend of mine was talking, and then COVID, so they weren't having the gatherings. But then they were doing field trips. There's another whole component to it called field trips. And it's similar to what you're doing, Barry, where you're bringing people together and having talks on different subjects. And they're also free. So every week on Monday, an email comes out, and they share, oh, we're going to do there's 4 different things this week that you might want to do. It might be how to do your time management. It might be sound bath. It might be doing your taxes. And so maybe it's collage. Someone wants to share their collage practice, or, in part, people are promoting their business, but it's also a beautiful way of sharing and learning, and it's a nice network.
Thank you. Thanks, Nancy.
Sure.
Certainly advantage, having two ears and 2 eyes and sort of taking it all in. There's so much. And, there's something that's quite fascinating and quite a big deal. I saw it started in 2008. So I guess that's sort of an easy way for us to help each other. It's not 2 eyes and 2 ears. We have a sort of group head, and that helps. Thomas, would you like to share your screen and discuss with us what you've been up to?
We'll try it again. Okay. And this should be it here. How come? Oh, I see what I have to do.
There you go. That's doing it.
Yeah, but that's not what I want. And we just did it, right?
Oh, that's the norm.
Yeah.
There it is.
There you go.
Ah, there it is.
Ooh,
All right, let me put it on full screen. Just give me a minute. I think this is it. Nope. Anyway, I don't know what you can see, but hopefully
I see that marsh photograph that you put up while we were
just
practicing.
before. Okay, very good. Well, I started taking pictures about 12 years ago. I always thought when I retired, I'd do something that I would take pictures or do something. I always gardened, I did landscapes. And so this is what I've been doing. I don't put myself out too much because I'm retired and it's too much bother. But I recently just sold this one. And for me, I got a lot of money. For me, it's a lot of money. I got about $1,400 for this. It's limited to 10, which opens up a whole other dynamic. Now, all my prices have to match what this person paid. So now I
Right.
have to raise all my prices, which is kind of annoying, but it is what it is.
What size?
Yes, what size did you go to?
I think it was about, I'm guessing maybe 38 by 20, 24.
That's
It
a
was
good
good
size
size.
photo.
By 30, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and it looked impressive. I was impressed with it, and I'm my harshest critic, actually. So when people ask me what I photograph, I say, oh, I photograph, landscapes, and I kind of use classic compositions. I watch a lot of what I did when I had three major knee surgeries, and to pass the time, I watched YouTube. There was a channel, Learn from Masters, and it's slideshows of different artists. I really was impressed with the American Impressionists. So you watch the slideshow, and I'd watch them for hours, and you would see one image for 5 seconds, then the next image, and it really changed the way I saw things. This is another example. I've been in Florida for the winter, and this is another thing that I normally would do. This is over at Merritt Island. As you see, it's a very classic type landscape with foreground, midground, the leading lines, and
depth.
Yeah, but it's like Stephen Shore is one of the preeminent photographers of our era. And somehow he's able to take what are, I don't want to use the word average, but seem like average photographs. And there's something else in the photograph somehow. And likewise, the way you've set up the road here, it almost speaks to loneliness or emptiness. I'm not sure, but yeah, I think you have that ability too, where even your last image, where you're capturing, like you say, a fairly normal composition, but somehow, I don't know if it's fresh, if it's alive. I'm not sure what the difference is, but often the difference between a so-so photo and a really fine photo is very small. And you have that difference in your art. There's no question about it. And Stephen Shore.
Yeah, I just want to say, I agree 100%. The image, it's about something more than the landscape. There's something that you do, you capture something that speaks to something more than just what we're looking at. That's what I think you're saying by like saying a typical landscape or something, because it's not typical at all somehow.
Exactly. Thank you for refining that.
well, I didn't mean so much typical, but I meant like the classic type of.
Well, classic, whatever, right.
But there's always a little twist in my work. And, when I'm out photographing, I'm usually by myself, and I'm in a very happy place. I love going out, creating the image. I also like working on the image. It's going out to galleries, going to the framer, making trips back and forth. That's the part, and going to openings. That's the part I don't like. I don't mind giving artists talk. After I retired, I did a lot of work with the New York City Board of Ed. I was a consultant. I used to talk to large audiences. I used to do 5-day presentations and workshops. So talking isn't a problem. I kind of enjoy that. But just going out and pushing your work, it's a pain in the neck. So anyway,
You're right. It's not really an artist's, it's not like painting or shooting. It definitely is a drudgery, and I sort of
It
hear you
is.
when you say, I'm retired, I don't want to do this. And so you're doing what you want. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, ideally, you find the right gallerist and they do the work for you.
right, I'm in one gallery now, they have a few of my pieces, but they aren't really pushing as much as they could.
Where
Did you
are you
go-
in Florida? Excuse me. Mary.
Right now, I'm in Central Florida, but I live on Long Island.
What
I'm
part of
outside,
Florida? Like Orlando or,
I'm 4 miles away from Disney World,
okay.
a town that was was made by Walt Disney for his employees.
Oh, yes, I've heard of that.
Everything is perfect here. And
Right.
if you have any imperfections in your house, you get fined very heavily. If your roof is dirty, you get a fine. You get a warning, then you have to get your roof power washed. Which,
Well, I asked because my stepdaughter lives in Plant City,
okay,
so that's right near there.
it
Yeah,
is, okay,
Yeah, it's, Lakeland, it's the next town over.
yeah, yeah.
We drive through there all the time. Yeah, I've read
Beautiful
about that
countryside.
town.
It's being
Yeah.
destroyed.
Yeah.
Bulldozers and housing, the traffic has gotten impossible in Central Florida. Everybody's moving down here. And that's kind of the narrative. I don't like talking about my narratives because of the pictures, but that's kind of the way I've been photographing down here is I'm very upset. I've been photographing in this town called Claremont, beautiful rolling hills, and that's all you see are housing developments. And it's, little boxes 4 feet away from each other. It's not so great. But anyway,
So there's a conceptual idea behind all of this. You're driven by this experience.
yes.
Yeah.
And so, but this winter I discovered the square. I mean, everybody takes square compositions, but I wish I could get rid of this. You see this part, right?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
don't
fine,
know how.
It's fine, Thomas. We
Okay.
yeah.
The
Another
post,
beautiful photograph.
Thank you.
And
This was-
David Gregory said gorgeous, to your earlier shot. And he asked the printer, you're having this printed by a professional photographer?
Actually,
Or you
only-
have,
I only have larger prints. My printer goes up to 17 by 22 inches, so I enjoy printing is part of my process. But I
Oh.
found somebody who I really trust to print my work. And he does an excellent job, so I use him, because it doesn't pay for me to buy a large printer. The inks are $2,000 and $3,000 to fill up the inks. So, and I don't sell that much. So I just find, I feel like foolish in a way that I never use square framing cropping before this really. And it just opens everything up. This was photographed back home in Hempstead Harbor, one of my houses on Long Island where I live.
you said something important earlier,
Mhm.
Thomas. You said you went out and you felt good. And I think, I've mentioned this before, when you do ceramics, there's this great book and the author goes into how you make your coffee and how you feel and how you open your cupboard and everything you do before. And that's a mood that you bring with you.
Right.
And certainly some artists, like professional actors, are professional. They can snap into a certain mode. Maybe not so easy, but I know myself, when I feel a certain relaxed, balanced way, I have a certain energy that'll translate to painting. On the other hand, having that imbalanced energy, having that angst, having that sort of pain is another way to go.
Right.
It definitely does work. But again, I don't know, I think David's right. It seems like you're getting incredible quality and, detail. And, that's, I think, why he asked about the printer, because it shows so nicely, but you're also breaking some rules. And the other one, you were almost splitting the canvas in half here.
I am on this. Yeah,
you-
I do
yeah,
that
you-
often.
And that is a dangerous game to play because it makes for a static space, but you did it perfectly well, and not easy to do.
And I'm taking more risks. This composition, I would never do this before. This is a photograph here, and I have another one up here. And I try never to put two different compositions in the same image, but this works for me.
Yes,
They
it
complement
does.
each other.
You can hit the little arrow over, see near where the curve is. There's a little arrow there, and that thing you want to go away will go away.
Where here,
Like, oh, keep going to the right
right?
and down. Keep going down to the curve.
I don't see a curve.
Oh, okay. I thought you wanted to get rid of the curves. Like
No,
the
this-
box
this-
on the
These
side.
boxes up here. But right.
Oh, we're not
are
seeing those.
off.
Okay.
And as Barry was saying, I think this is the next picture. I went out one morning, it's right around the corner from her house where I'm staying, and I was in the right mood, and it was foggy, and I always do really good in fog. And I got a bunch of really strong images in one day. Sometimes I can go out for a few days or a long time and not get anything that I would want to use. And this is just, again, it's something, the balance I found on this was interesting because of the bird kind of offsets. It's not really balanced, but the bird makes it balanced. And this is actually a golf course, just a few blocks away from where I am. Again, it's the square composition. It's just, I find it so easy to figure this out. It just kind of works with me. And I spent some time on Merritt Island, where a couple of these pictures came from, which is right near Cape Canaveral. And it's a wildlife preserve. I took a room, I went there, I stayed overnight for a few nights. And then again, this golf course, and I'm really looking forward to going home and printing these up. I just ordered, it finally came in. I didn't look at the shipping options of a Kozo paper, which is made from mulberry bark. And I just got a whole sample pack. It took 4 months because I picked standard shipping from Japan. It must have come over by boat. So it's waiting for me when I go home, and I'm really looking forward to using this paper on these pictures. And I think I'm going to keep, I don't know, like your input also. I want to print, this one doesn't really go with the series. I just added it for fun.
Right,
But-
because it's a little too sharp. It's a little too
It
sharp.
is,
Right,
right.
and a very, whereas the other one with the bird, it's very quiet, even though that
right.
bird in the bottom right is your central figure.
So-
You sort of haze. By the way, I agree with you. I love going out and shooting when it's foggy, but then again, it's like shooting a sunset. If it's already a brilliant image, how are you going to make it different? And you're
Mhm.
doing that. So the sort of gimme photographs, sunsets on the water or fog in the morning,
Right.
they really are hard because you got to do more than the average person is going to do with it. I think that's a
For me,
challenge.
I find it easier because fog is a simplification. You don't see all the houses in the background, especially in this photograph. And I'm thinking about not keeping these very small. Maybe 8 by 8, 12 by 12, not much bigger than that, to keep them very intimate. I think they're gonna work really good, and maybe I'll try that paper or some other paper.
Yeah, I like a small photograph where I have to go up and I have to get into its world.
Right.
Something
And these,
very, a large photo will at times, it'll challenge you, because it'll come into
Right.
your space, given the scale, but this is sort of like a world you sort of walk into. David Gregory asks, what kind of camera? And I'd be interested too. What are you shooting with?
I use a Canon, it's not one of these 30, 40, $100,000 cameras. It's a good camera. It's a, was it an R5? It's a mirrorless camera. And I always use a tripod. And I use something called a gear head, where you turn knobs to adjust the position of the camera. You can go up and down, this way, that way, and level it just by very precise knobs. And I enjoy doing it that way because it slows me down. I don't seem very excitable, but I do get very excited when I'm taking these pictures, and it helps me slow down.
And
I said that to a New York Giants photographer. He was a sports guy, and he cringed when I said, "Oh, it slows me down." Totally opposite of what they do.
what kind of lens do you like to shoot with?
When I first started, I always use a very wide angle, a 16 to 35.
Okay.
Now I'm using a 24 to 105, and I'm also using a telephoto lens that goes from 100 to 500.
Okay, that's a big one.
And my scenes are more intimate. If you notice, I used to shoot the great landscape, but now I'm trying to get more focused.
There's some
into it.
photographers don't like the question, what camera you're using and what lens are you using, and they'll sort of, it depends on the photographer, obviously, but they sort of recoil at the question because I think they seem to react that you're implying, well, the camera's doing it or the lens is,
I know.
which I'm not, and which I just love to know what camera people like. But I do think your choice of lens, it really does reflect the photographer. Some are like 35 millimeter, that's their go-to, or some are like working in the wide angle. Others, are using, and that affects your shot a big deal. It really does. Obviously, your depth of field and how much light does a lot, but I think, simply put, the lens that you're using really sets it.
Right.
When
Those are my thoughts when
you go in and balance with your knobs, Tomix, are you actually working in a grid? You have a grid screen on your camera so you can really see exact horizontal and vertical lines?
No.
No, because it seems like you have that precision.
Well, I do have, the camera has a built-in level.
Okay.
So I shoot, it's called live. There's a little screen in the back of the camera. I never use the viewfinder. So I stand behind the camera and there's a little tiny screen, and I use that. And then I push a button and it checks my exposure to see if my histogram is correct, which tells you if my light areas are blown out or the dark areas are blocked up. And it also has a level. So I make sure everything is, I'm try to be precise with the level. So that's about it.
Very beautiful.
Thank you.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Thank you, Thomas.
Okay. Thank you.
Those are beautiful.
you.
Really, really wonderful. I think it's exciting to try those other papers. I bet that'll look amazing. With
Yeah,
the
I'm
black
excited.
and white. Yeah.
Do you tend to print, Thomas, with a matte finish? Do you tend to use matte paper?
I tell you the truth, I use only one paper when I'm printing, and it is it's somewhere, it's not really a glossy, it's labeled as glossy, but it's more matte. It's not, hit you in the face shiny. It's a beautiful paper, delicate, but that's what I use. So when I get back home, I want to start experimenting. And this Japanese paper can be as much as like $350 a sheet, but
Wow.
yeah, so I'm it's also can be a lot less, but the handmade deckled edges and
Well, luckily you just upped your prices, so
that's it.
it'll accommodate.
I
That's
don't
right.
sell many, I don't market myself and I hardly ever sell anything.
Well, maybe you just will with those images on that new paper.
Maybe I will, we'll see.
Yeah, because they're pretty beautiful. I mean,
Thank
that's what I personally love about the foggy images. They don't even feel like photographs. It seems very painterly and very, I don't know, otherworldly. It really, and if the quality of that paper is such with the edge, it'll really take it from just being a photograph.
And
kind of gets beyond a photograph.
Yeah, and I also feel there's an Asian influence in a lot of
Yes.
Mhm.
not intentionally, it's just my aesthetic. It's
Do you have any experience with the Far East or
None.
none?
No.
I like the way you say you learned from watching, was it YouTube's?
Yeah, learn from masters.
You really can, we have this TV in front of us and we all use it for silly things. It can be the greatest learning tool. I learned how to throw ceramics and I got to see like people all over the world do it. And with wheels that had no mechanics, it was all mechanical and had no electrics. And then I got to see how everyone used their hands and I realized I could do whatever I want with my hands. Everyone's just doing what they want. You really can learn skills. And sure enough, if you're looking at enough visual images, you're training your eye. You
Yes.
know, it's not
Without
so-
knowing it, it's just.
without knowing it, but it does take a lot of images. But you sort of absorb that on a slightly subconscious level. Thomas, it's so hard for me to square how you came from being a science teacher for, am I right, 20 years?
Oh, 38 and a half.
38 and a half. And in that time, you didn't really do photography, correct?
No, I
No.
really, if I went on a vacation, I'd take a few pictures. That would be it.
Let me ask you, when you took those photos, were they unique? Because you're photographic, I could tell your photos, like was mentioned, they have a painterly quality. They have a certain energy. It's both quiet, beautiful. It's also a little sullen and sad, but in the nicest, softest way. When you used to photograph, while you were teaching and away with the family, did you like turn away and like look at the landscape and get nobody in the photo, or were you
But
just like?
I would go for walks, I'd look at things and would say, oh boy, that would make a great photograph. So I would take images with my mind all the time. But it took me a while. I'm a slow learner. It takes me a while to really figure things out, which is okay. But, everything I thought would be a great photograph would be garbage, but I enjoyed looking at things. And I always knew I would take pictures one day. I just wish I used to work 2 and 3 jobs all my life. And so I'm glad I finally started. I wish I had started a heck of a lot sooner. I wish I had retired sooner, but I didn't, so.
Yeah, but I think you did it right. A lot of people look to live a life and then retire and do something that they haven't developed, and they're not able to. They're not able to start picking up photography or painting. It just doesn't work in the 60s or 70s. And you're the unique example where you didn't feed it, but you obviously always wanted to do it. Like you say, you were taking pictures in your head. I don't think anybody else but a photographer does that. So I think it was somehow in you. And you got lucky in that you got to express it later, and you didn't start at base one. You definitely did it.
And it's not a money thing. I have a pension. So, I'm not dependent upon selling anything, which is a big freedom. I'm not professional, so that's another freedom that I have. So I just do what I want to do.
No, I think that is important.
So I just want to say something about the idea of pictures in your head, because I did a little research about people that actually have strong memories and people that don't. And I found that, and they're not necessarily artists, but maybe, but I'm someone who takes pictures in my head and I have a good memory. And I made the assumption that other people did the same. And then I found out that they don't. And then
They
I
don't?
started to ask around to people, like, do you take pictures in your head? And I found out that like some people actually take pictures in their head, like not for an artistic reason, but like in life, say as a child, there's like a particular moment and you just like capture it like a picture in your mind. And I don't know, I just became fascinated with that concept. And for a period of time, I started to ask people, like, do you take pictures in your head? And some people knew exactly what I was talking about. And other people were like, what the hell are you talking about?
Right.
So, and then I found out there was a correlation between the people that had no idea what I was talking about and their lack of memory. So I don't know. I just thought, since you just said that phrase, it made me think of that. I'm like, oh, this could be an interesting topic to ask people. So I'm just putting it out there.
Okay.
Who else takes pictures in their head, and are you known to have a good memory or not? Go ahead, David, tell us something.
I do. No, I do it constantly. And I notice that I do this. Like I will, I use it as kind of a coping skill. I think like standing in a line at the BMV, like, okay, how would I shoot this? And then I'm not thinking about standing in line, I'm thinking about doing that. But I do it constantly. I create photographs, something like that in front of that. I wish I had my phone with me. Those moments happen all the time. But yeah, I do that.
But what about as a kid? What about growing up? What about before there was a phone or a camera?
Yeah. But I have like crystalline photographic memories from super early childhood. Like standing at the screen door in my diaper, nothing else, waiting before disposable diapers for the delivery truck. So it's my last diaper. And I mean, the van, I'm a little, yeah, because there are consequences, I remember, and it's a
Well, that's what
photograph.
I'm talking about, but that's a pretty funny example.
Yeah,
I bet not too many people can say that, David.
and I
It's a
think
painting.
earliest memories, I think it is and the van pulls up, one of those like curvy delivery vans, all white with a blue pelican on the side carrying a baby. So I knew, I'm like this on the screen door. He's here. So yeah, and that's a fucking photograph, but I gotta tell you, I don't know what it is. Lately in the last couple of years, I do that all the time. I do it with sounds too, like in the kitchen making coffee in the morning. Like, oh my God, there's a lot of clicks and squeaks and shooting button clicks, and it's like, wow. Anyway, I don't know, but I've been doing that with sounds too. Anyway, I don't know, maybe I should have went into sound or something in the movies. But anyway, I do that. I'll take pictures like that in my head all the time. all the time. Yeah. So
I
what
feel
was your
like
question?
sometimes I want to take a picture, but like I was at the dentist and and I just feel like I want to back up to where I couldn't even put a camera to take a picture.
Yeah, yeah. Like a drone, you want to zoom out of body experience. It was
Right, right.
yes or something.
Well, that's
Yeah,
where you just take the picture in your mind because you can't take
Yes.
the actual
Yeah,
picture, but.
yeah. Or
yeah.
just reading pictures. I've always liked just
But maybe
reading
just
the
taking
picture.
notice. That's the thing that makes us remember. Stepping back, taking notice. And not everybody does that. People are just, just engaged. And maybe it has to do with that observer eye, that thing that we do when we step back and take notice. So, and I really think it feeds our memory. Or that's what my research says.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail on the head. You have to sort of, you could walk around, look at something and then continue. Or you could walk around, look at something and really look. And sometimes, yes, it means looking longer, but sometimes it means like looking and breathing and sort of seeing and not seeing what you think it is, but really looking. And then,
There's a thing called walking meditation.
yes.
It's just being present and noticing, and just before you begin it, I'm going to do this, and so you focus and you're open to all those things you see. A lot of times there's so much distraction and shit, just fuck shit, you don't see. You just don't see, or you don't hear.
Mhm.
It's
Yeah, because you're so in your head.
Yes, exactly.
yeah. So, but that's what I meant by the last couple of years. I don't know, for some reason I've been able to focus on focusing and get out of my, just not being distracted. I have no more fucks to give. That's I'm gonna no.
For my process when I photograph, obviously it's different. I don't walk around with a camera. I'm just walking, and if I see something, sometimes you see something, and you're like, that's different. And I know it's a fun challenge to like have a camera and say, okay, make a photograph, meaning you're not giving anything extraordinary. Wherever you are at that moment, try and take a photo. And that's a great challenge. On the other hand, sometimes when I was with my wife, Kathy, she pointed out the roots of a tree that were just beautiful. They had it all. They spoke to age, they spoke to growth, they spoke to decay, they had line, they had form, they had everything you'd want. And she noticed that. And I said to her, yes, I photograph those roots often. And, trying to capture it is another thing. But sometimes you see things that are just, they seem to carry more weight than the norm. And, that's when I photograph. That's when I say, okay, take out the phone and let's capture this.
Yeah. Time of day, just the light of when you're walking, that matters so much, Thomas. You must, your early morning thing and the way the fog, it does catch light, and that kind of hides the stuff back in the background. But that's, same thing of, I don't know what I was going to say.
But you're right, it could be the most boring looking thing, and then you come at the right time of day, it's stunning.
Yeah. So, I got to come back at the magic hour and take a picture here.
All about the light. All about the light.
Yeah.
I like, Thomas, that you went ahead and you actually collaged two photographs together in that one photo, correct?
No.
Oh, you didn't?
No, that was actually there.
Okay.
The point I was making, I'm careful not to put it's not a good thing to have two separate images in the same one. That's what my point was, but in this one it worked, and I was proud that I was able to do it.
you being in Florida, you probably missed the recent photography show that was in New York. I think it's called APAD.
iPad.
It's the big photography show. I want to say it's once a year, though. Often these shows are twice a year. And that's an eye opener. I'm sure you'd love it. It's also not a bad idea to go to those fairs and try and scope out gallerists and dealers around the globe that you think your art might line up to, and then reach out to them at another time. So it's a nice way for you to see, oh, he's showing work similar, or that work is interesting, but mine
Right.
wouldn't fit in. And it's a way for you to walk through Germany and a lot of countries and just be inside an art fair. That is valuable. It's just that while they're at an art fair, they're really not going to want you to approach them. But for
Right.
you to do it as a scouting exercise, and
What is
also when you go to an art fair, and especially a photography fair, where you can have in front of you the great photography galleries from around the globe that you can't really reach out to, because we don't even know them. But at an art fair, you're going to see them right in front of you,
Mhm.
and you can get contact information, and you get a feel for what they do.
What was the name of the fair you mentioned?
I think it's APAD, AIPAD.
I put the link in the chat.
Oh, okay, yep.
Thank you.
Nancy put it in there. And that's that's one of the advantages of being in New York. Just about all the major fairs do come around, make it easy for us. Audrey, what have you been up to? Nice to see you tonight. Oh wait, I'm gonna ask you to unmute.
Okay,
Oops, sorry, Audrey, I clicked the button at the same time. Try it again.
okay. This, working on collages, working from life a little more. And today was kind of a big day because I met with the person who is the liaison for the book on the refugee work. So that's an exciting thing. We picked out fabric and, colors and things like that for this very limited edition book that's going to be produced about the refugee series. Oh, and then another nice thing is the New York Artist Circle put together an online version of the exhibition. And so I could see, I'm not as adept at going from screen to screen, but I could put a link in the chat for
Okay.
the online exhibition, because they did a beautiful job. They really did a sensitive and a very nice job of putting it together. So thanks for asking.
So how long have you been a part of the New York Artist Circle?
I went way back when they were in the bakery, from time to time, which is, I don't know, maybe 20 years, 15 years, maybe about 15 years.
And how large was the group then? 'Cause
I really don't know, because it's all before they really went online. It would just be something where people showed up at what was the place? Maria's Mexican, I think it was, down in below Canal Street. And
okay.
we'd pitch in $2 for the coffee, and it was nice. So it's a little more sophisticated now. Their website's fabulous, I think. I really like it. I like it as a gallerist to look at it, to see what people are up to. I love the feature of artist studios, where people make comments and you can kind of scroll through a couple different pictures of people's studios. So it's a nice organization.
It is, and it seems to be growing. And yes, they're always putting on shows, which is very nice. Yeah, nice group. I
Yeah.
hate to say it, mostly a group of women, and this is the right time for it. There's
Yeah.
no question about it. Being a woman artist today, there's an effort to try and, play catch up for how unequal women were treated in the arts. So definitely a good opportunity. Jill, nice to see you. Hope you're feeling well. Jill's,
Oh, thanks.
Hi,
Sorry I'm late.
Jill.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late.
Are you feeling better?
I do feel better. Yeah.
All right, I
I
have
do.
to leave, but thank you for letting me share.
Sorry.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Thomas.
Okay,
Thomas.
so long.
Street. Thank you, Thomas.
Oh, is it over?
Almost. We have sort of an open night with Drawing Mo, and Thomas did share, which was very interesting. And of course, Nancy shared a little in the beginning. It was very nice. I haven't lined up a speaker, so it'll look like the rest of April will fall out like this. I'm still reaching out, and I'll keep it updated on my website when I do have one. But sort of until then, just sort of treat it like drawing, which I know last time I got 3 drawings out of it. I was very happy with it. So I do enjoy it. Mo, what have you been doing? Do you model elsewhere these days, or not really? Don't feel up to it.
No. MTA announced that they're gonna put elevators in the next 10 years. I'm like, didn't you say that 10 years ago? So, yeah, Spring Street is not on Spring Street anymore, so I didn't go. Also, it's just hard for me to get around, and so.
I get you.
So this gig is working for you then?
This,
Yeah.
but yeah,
I thought you were in Long Island City, Mo.
writing and I have been performing, so I'm in sort of a weird kind of. I don't know if you know that. You
Mo,
know,
what part of Jersey are you in?
you know what?
What part of Jersey are you in?
I don't live in Jersey.
Oh, I thought you were Jersey. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
my Jersey phone number because I gotta keep it real. No, I'm in Long Island City. I can-
That's
You were right. You were right, David.
I used to live in Long Island, something gardens. What are they called? On the 7th?
You lived in the Yellows, Marvin Gardens.
No, yeah, no, shit, what was it called? I had such a good time there. Anyway, Long Island City, a lot of good food there, man.
Well, it's all new buildings, it's a brand new building, it's a skyrock. I won the lottery
Oh, wow.
Excellent.
before I came here, so people are like, oh my God, you have like fancy appliances. I'm like, I was homeless for 2 years, so you just back off. Off. Yeah, I'm one of those. Anyway, when I was in the shelter, it was like writing was like kept me sane. And then the people in New Jersey who harassed me out and made me homeless, they started harassing me again about, because a year ago now. So it interrupted my writing, and then my writing got really dark and dreary, and I couldn't even read it. I'm like, if I don't want to read it, why would I want anyone else to read it? So I started a business. I'm selling clothes, which is why I asked, I keep on wanting to call him Richard. Why do I want to call him Richard? The guy with the fabulous photographs.
Thomas.
Thomas.
Thomas. That's my
You
brother.
sell clothing?
I asked his wife has 200 pairs of shoes. I'm like, I'll sell them.
Oh, wow.
I started an online selling business because I had to stay busy. If I'm not going to be writing for 4 hours a day, I have to do something, or else I'll just go kooky. So, and I'm kooky enough as it is. So I don't know. We'll see. I talked to somebody in the Attorney General's office yesterday in New Jersey, and I told him about what's going on. And you know, a lot of times it's BS, but maybe not. I mean, she seemed to be concerned, but my public defender recently made a big kerfluffle by admitting that he's in cahoots with the prosecutor. Blah, 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 blah. It's been going on for 5 years. I'm like,
We'll see.
Sorry to hear about. Doesn't sound like a lot of fun.
and at least I'm not in jail. But the thing is, the worst comes to worst is that I can't go to Jersey ever. And that's why when I talked to the lady in New Jersey yesterday, I said, listen, I grew up in New Jersey. You can't ban me from my own state. And the only reason I agreed to talk to this judge is because my father had, I have a lot of illnesses and I've been flat on my back for years at a time. And so my father at one point got power of attorney and he used it improperly. And so I said, the judge never actually heard my voice, so I will talk to you. But then they bait and switched me and they want me to go out there. And I'm like, but that's anti my civil rights, reasonable accommodation, and all this other jazz. Whatever, we'll see. It's stressful. It's very stressful. And what they did to me in New Jersey is the only reason I moved out there because I grew up in mostly unicultural. I mean, we mostly white, but ethnic white. New York.
Mo,
But
is your cat under your back?
I
Is
think
that, oh no, they look like two little lies looking out from, no,
it did
I
actually.
thought, no, I thought you were on it.
here he is.
I thought so too, actually. That's funny.
He's my
I saw
buddy.
two little eyes poking out.
He's my pal.
Yeah.
Michael Krasowitz, nice to see you. How are you doing?
Hey, bud.
Sorry, guys. Just wanted to say hello. I kind of got wrapped up in stuff this morning.
Yeah, no, good to see you.
How you all doing?
Good.
Are you on the Facebook, Michael?
Yeah,
I couldn't find you.
yeah. Just my name. I don't do
I
too much
do
Facebook
that.
stuff though.
Here's a website and stuff.
Yeah, I want to
Yeah.
I have a question, like, how are you involved with the Brooklyn Rail? 'Cause that looks like a very interesting situation.
You're asking me?
Michael, yeah.
I just went to every meeting in COVID. I went for 2 years. I think I went to every single meeting in 2 years. That's it, basically. And I that's all. That's my entire connection. I just went to every meeting, and I met the guy, the director. They had an opening. That's about it. But I'm telling you, right now I'm applying to graduate school.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
For what?
Hold on 1 second. Jovan, I'm online. I'm gonna bring it to you in a second. 1 second, guys, I'll be right back.
That is an interesting thing to hear.
That's a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I'm coming, Jovan. I'm coming.
Wow.
Yeah,
I mean-
I found this. There's a thing called the Southern Graphics Council. It's a printmaking. They used to get together every year, and they had this big convention of all the printmakers from all over the country. And I used to go. I went to Austin 1 year, and I went to Rutgers 1 year. And they have a website, and on the website they listed this graduate program where they give you free tuition and a stipend to do, and you have to work. You work on campus, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And it's a big project getting this application done, and it has to be in by the Friday, so that's my days. But I don't, not that I'm gonna do it or I can possibly pull it off, but I just think that it's a path forward.
Yeah. No, it is.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
congrats, man. Good luck. Yeah, it is a path, an option. You don't have to take it.
Right. That's how I feel. And I tell you
Yeah.
something, on Saturday, I did the Brooklyn Flea Market under the Manhattan Bridge.
Yeah.
How did that go?
You know what? I just did the art clothes, and people really, they get excited.
Yes.
That's what they come for. They want to see something a little different. And they were I mean, I don't know if they're enthusiastic with every single person, but I had a lot of people from Europe come by and talk to me, and they seemed really genuinely interested. I didn't sell anything, which kind of means I probably can't do it again because.
Well, no, Michael, I just want to say something about the clothes because it's so incredible and amazing. But the thing about clothing is people have to wear it. So it takes an incredible and amazing person to have the confidence to wear your clothes. Like, I just was thinking about that. Do you know what I mean? Because it makes such a strong statement that not just anybody's going to be comfortable like putting it on and wearing it. It takes a certain, that's why I was happy you were saying, like, some people from Europe or whatever, like your average person is just not going to feel comfortable, I don't think, wearing it because they're so bold and dynamic.
Well, one guy said he was just thinking about buying it and he's going to frame it,
Exactly my point.
which is fine. I mean, the thing
It's
is, like,
such art.
with me, it's like if one person would have bought, then I would have paid back what I spent,
Yeah.
and then I could have done it another week. But right now, it's like at least $200 each time, and
Oh,
minimum.
wow.
Yeah, it's 150 for the space. You have to pay for $20 for insurance, and then all the other incidentals. So you gotta, just the break even point is anyway. So it was very interesting though because it just kind of shows you that people, that they like it. It's something that's interesting to them. So
Yeah.
you pay for that, but
It matters.
it does matter, right? I agree. It's definitely a boost, to see that happen. But like I said, I would have gone back this Sunday, but it's like I just can't. And the people are very nice. All the people there teach you all the ins and outs, the tricks. Just certain things you should do and not do. Having different price points is very important.
Mm.
You can have an expensive thing, but you got to have a cheap thing too. And like I said,
Do you feel the other artists there are selling?
the woman across from me was doing like watercolors of table settings with flowers and things like that. She seems to do very well. She goes back there every weekend, from what I understand. The woman next to me, she designs like quilted spring jackets and spring dresses. She comes really amazing. She comes in with an entire store, like a huge van filled with racks of clothing. They roll the racks off. They put the stuff up. Super professional. And I know they did very well. Just packed with people. And lots of transactions. So I know I was watching how it works. And yeah, and then there was one girl, she did like small etchings, and maybe there might have been multiple copies of the etchings, and she was selling them for $10 in frames. She had a double booth, so she was probably selling a ton too. Because that's the thing. Somebody comes in and drops $20, no problem. It's a little matte thing they can take home.
Right, but that's a tough price point for an artist. You've got to sell a lot to cover expenses and.
Unless you're just doing copies,
Mhm.
if you're doing like just copy prints and not original art, you could sell it for cheap, but.
Yeah, she just sticks them in mats. It's interesting though, and it's a great location. And compared to my experience on Long Island, where people just don't know what to make of it, this is an audience of people who they get into it. It's like instantaneous, and it could be from all walks of life. They just come and they like the work, Where here, I mean, that was what I learned from it is like, there is such a difference between how people in Brooklyn are they're open to new things. They're open to things like this. I do stuff on Long Island and it's not that. It's the absolute opposite. Here it's plein air painting, beaches and birds.
Say that again, plein air painting, what was the
Plein air
rest?
painting, you know, like you got that beach scene with the seagull and the you know, that's the kind of thing. It's like that's how they define art. It's very limited definition here.
Yeah, so I teach at a Pino's Palette, and I get people who are, you know, general population, and I get to see their idea of what art is, because they look on our walls and we have all these paintings. And, you know, I know when I was younger, I had certain art I liked to collect, and then as I got older, it changed. And when I look back, you know, my aesthetic was a little immature, to say the least, when I was younger. But I feel I've evolved, and, you know, I think you have to hone it just like any other skill. You have to hone your eye, and you have to sort of see a little deeper. I think you're right. I think a lot of people see on a very, you know, base one level, landscape, bird there, and that's it. I get it. Or it's a table with flowers in a vase. And I think there's nothing wrong with that. That's like a beginning. But I think 99.9% of the world is at the beginning. I'm not saying you got to go real far and go for Melodic and get very austere. In no way at all. But I think the road's got to develop from that vision. And I don't know if that's necessarily true. And so,
you know, Barry, I think there's another thing to it too.
okay.
If I'm not talking loud enough, let me know. But I think that it's like a different track. So in the criteria of a plein air painting, there is good and less good. So if you're painting a cat, if your craft is good, then you're a higher level artist than a person whose cat is more primitive or not, you know, not that level. You follow me? So it's a whole different mentality about what quality is. If you make a wave and you're doing a waves picture and the waves look really good, like they're crashing on the rock, then you're considered a good artist. And that's where the value is. The value is how accurately you can portray that particular thing. And it's a very different track than somebody who's thinking conceptually or you know, abstractly, but they don't have a criteria for understanding it. So it isn't that it's just a different mindset. You know, and that's how I see it. I mean, I really think that's the big difference. It's like, you know, and I know in that world, you know, it's like, I used to do this thing in the Art League of Long Island, you know, and they would give awards. Who was the best? Who got the red ribbon? Who got the blue ribbon? And that's what I mean. It's different when you don't have that. When you take that criteria away, then you're open to a whole different kind of art. But they're not open to that. I don't know. What do you think, Nancy?
Well, you know, it's like everyone has their opinion, and sometimes they differ greatly. You know, we can all look at the same thing and have a different experience with it. Yeah, when it's a contest, I don't know, in photography, a lot of people are interested in entering things. There's lots of things. There's critical mass, and I don't know, I find it a little frustrating to think about work, you know, my work being based on entering a contest. You know, I've entered things and you get them and you don't get them, and the way it makes you feel, and it seems like curators should be able to curate a show without having a contest.
I agree with that. I think there's just we've said this before, there's just a little too much no's and rejection in the art world. And of course, what is the criterion? So when I teach art, and I say to people all the time, take your time. Art is not a race; it's a competition. And they all laugh because they're all coming to compete. But then I ask them, well, how do you judge the competition? That is the whole question of art right there, or at least 50% of it. And so, that's according to your aesthetic. I throw out things like you try, you put energy in, you give attention. I go very large in general, and I think somebody said it last week. I talk about energy, the energy you put in. That's sort of my criterion. And I can tell when people are painting, they lean in a little. They become absorbed. And I don't care what they're doing. What they're doing is right when they're getting absorbed in. And somehow they're putting something in. Now, they may not know how to control their hand, and they may want to go left and it goes right. You can get all these visual inconsistencies, which, by the way, if you went to the Outsider Art Fair, if you look at a lot of art, it doesn't necessarily have to be consistent, except maybe the energy and the attention and the trying. So, it's a fine line. You get a flower. I know people who do beautiful watercolors and flowers, and there's something that's very static about that. There's something like, it's amazing the Impressionists actually did paintings like that are considered beautiful. Today, I still think you can. But given that the Impressionists have done it and everyone else has done it, like I said with Thomas, if you're going to photograph in the mist, you're going to have to pull something more out of that mist than the average person can do. So if you're going to go up and try and give me a floral setting, you're going to have to bring some extreme skills to trick it so that it's a step up. Whereas if you went ahead and you painted from your dream, you're in an open field, and you can. And I know artists who they summarize, in a very simple curve or two, a whole body, and it works, and they elongate. And that's their thing because they're in a different space. I think often we sort of, when I ask, how do you, who wins the competition? How do you judge? Like you said, Michael, everybody's always looking for that. Does it look real? Can you draw the cat? Moe's cat, it looks like a cat. There's definitely some magic in seeing on a two-dimensional surface something like
The cat is
three-dimensional.
playing.
The cat is now the presenter. He's
Forming.
That's showing you the poses. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Yeah, no, I guess just my point is it's there's this odd, mix. Do you need these technical skills? Do you need to use some realism? On the other hand, when I even exaggerate, in a weird way, I consider it realism. So if I'm drawing Moe and the angles get, the form goes together, just that's enough for me. I don't have to get the width right, but the fact that the lines are coming together and then going away. So I get the movement. That works for me, and I guess everyone sets up their own rules for what they want to achieve. But I will say we hit an interesting point because I think you're right, Michael. I think this sort of understanding of art and appreciation of art, and you may not have said this, but I think it's at a very low level in the general population. I think wealthy people have these beautiful houses, these McMansions. I think they have no clue what to put on the wall. They know to buy a range that's by Wolf or a Sub-Zero refrigerator. Everybody knows that, and they can get high-end appliances and granite materials. But when they end up with a wall, they think of it like, when have we developed our aesthetic sensibilities in school? I don't think we ever do. So it's like we do it on our own. Maybe we take art in high school, or maybe we go to an MFA, and then you develop it. But I think 99.9% of the people are, if they had to, they draw a stick figure. They would draw a stick figure, and nothing wrong with stick figures, but it's sort of it's a beginning. And I think one thing we've done, we don't realize it as artists, is we've gone pretty deep down the rabbit hole in developing not only our skills and our sensibilities, but our whole process, and I like to point out, we're not free. Michael, when you paint, you've got a formula. It's not written down, but it's like ingrained in you. And you have a way that you go about, you have a line, and I like it. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, but I think you've developed that, and that's your unique sort of print. I, on the other hand, the viewer, I don't think has done their work. And I think often the viewer is like, okay, you go to the museum, that's what I have to like. And, it's a hard game. It's a hard game for the viewer. And as we've pointed out, yes, there's something beautiful about just doing a work of art for its own sake. And as Thomas said, there's certain freedoms. But on the other hand, you do want a viewer, and you do want someone to buy, and the importance of selling and having it seen. But it's not like, I make a screw, you have a nut, you put it together, you know how to use it, or I make a wrench. I don't think we've been educated in seeing as a culture. And I don't think any culture has done that. We're all sort of winging it on our own. But yet, I think our group, and I think groups of artists all over the country, they get it. It's not that there are no rules. They get what beauty is. Just because you can't define something doesn't mean you don't have a sense of what it is. And I think we all sort of move, whether it's towards truth, towards beauty, towards interest, or whatever, some sort of internal thing that we know that sort of directs us. And I think we've all developed in a very good way a complicated sort of seeing and language. And it is not easy for a viewer to come in. Michael, it's not easy for a viewer to look at your work and say, well, there's a little Kenny Scharf in there. Now, not that they need to, but it sort of opens it up a little bit.
I think the artists have to come up with a way to educate the potential viewer in a way, however that works. And it could be by the text, like Audrey's show that she's doing now, right? There's this specific text that will draw people into the concept and the pieces are all consistent, right? So that's the in. And then they know her work from previous, so they're going to be looking at the work because they know her work. This is her new body of work, and they're connected. But I think that that's why I think I'm interested in the social media component, because it's not the individual picture. It's the idea that people are seeing the work on a consistent basis. Like, I don't know if you guys know, the guy Jaffe just passed away, the guy from Mad Magazine.
The cartoon.
I think he did the folds. Pretty sure Jeff. So everybody knows him because over the years, they bought Mad Magazine, they saw his name, they start to know his work, they start to know his vocabulary, and then it becomes, or it could be a comic book, designer or something like that. Kirby, I think was the guy's name. You start to know their style, and then over time, you associate certain imagery with the style, and you get to know them, and you become, as a viewer, you get educated through the fact that you're consistently seeing the work. And I think that's what, being on Instagram constantly and all these other things does, is people, if they're going to see it, they're going to see it a lot. And then they're going to make associations between one and the other. They still might not understand it. But if they're seeing Wendy's sculpture, over time, oh, Wendy, you did this, and now you're doing this thing with the broken pieces and things like that, it becomes a story. And that story helps people access whatever it is that the artist's intention is. And I think that's the formula. Whether a gallery can show your work once a year, or you can have an exhibition once in a while and get written up, but it's over the long term. It's that association. You get to know an actor does certain parts, but that you like that actor, the work they do, and then whoa, what's the next thing they're doing? You know what I mean? I think that's the only way we can create that audience. And I agree with you. They're not going to be, they're not going to see associations to previous artists or something like that. They just kind of get into your style.
Yeah, I see my son getting into collecting art and going to art fairs. And I see he's excited because he's learning. And I see what he likes and what he's enjoying. And he likes the whole process. He really loves talking to the artist, getting the backstory, but he also has his vision of what beauty is or what he wants. And when I walk with him and my daughter at art fairs, I see what they're drawn to. And I know my son Spencer, he's really into it. He's also going to evolve, and it's going to be interesting to see over the next 3 years the different pieces that he buys. Just like it was interesting to watch how I used to collect. Yes, Audrey.
I'm curious what kind of art he likes.
I would say it shows like a figurative drawing skill, mixed abstractly, so it's not just in a setting. Tends to be bright and colorful. Yeah. I would say it has a graphic quality. The person who's the artist, one of the artists that he likes. On the other hand, he likes some of his dad's work.
That's a plus.
That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Well, thanks everybody for coming. I'm sorry I don't have a presenter lined up for April, but this was certainly fun. It's always good to get together and to share.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you.
Actually, I enjoy hearing from people in an unstructured way, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, it
There-
felt like everybody was presenting. So
Yeah, it was
Very
good.
nice. Nice to
Yeah.
hear. Thanks, everybody. If you'd like to reach out to Mo and contribute to, our model Mo, and to everybody for coming and sharing.
thanks, Mo. You rock.
Yeah. Have a great week.
All right, have a
everyone.
good week, everybody.
Thank you.